Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we have something a little bit different, and that is what is essentially a workshop kind of video. One of those, boring types of videos that I normally don't upload, but I just thought, why not? Just upload a boring video for, just cause, why not? So the subject of today's I wouldn't say today, but probably months of progress, I should say. Anyway, subject of today's butchering is Bachmann's H2 Atlantic. And yeah, so this one is Beachy Head. So, pretty decent model in my opinion. As you can see, I've already got it separated. That was done fairly simply with one of these extractor things from Hornby. You could also use tweezers, or if you're feeling ambitious, some pliers. I wouldn't recommend the pliers. I've also seen people use screwdrivers, flathead screwdrivers as well. Anyway, so today's topic is essentially, making this a little bit better, because unfortunately this model, while it is okay, it does have some compromises, and I do remember when this was in development, there were a lot of compromises, so I'm going to discuss what those compromises are and what I intend to rectify if possible. So, without further ado, as you can see, we got them separated, and on some things I actually have started on. So this is going to be essentially what, like I said, what I plan on doing, how I plan on going about this. This is not a how-to, okay? I'm going to get that straight. We're going to get that out of the way. This is not a how-to. It's not intended to be a how-to. And honestly, I don't, as much as I like watching those videos, it's just that. I like watching those videos. I don't like making them. And I probably will never make those types of videos because I'm more concerned on actually modeling. So anyway, the locomotive here, pretty decent. Like I say, pretty decent model. Cab interior, beautiful paint application. It is pretty basic. I do apologize for the terrible lighting, but this is one of those on the fly videos, unfortunately. Pretty decent amount of detail. So, one thing I have done, and it is a compromise on this model unfortunately, is that as you can see, the handrails on the cab are plastic, and they're fat and chunky, as you can see. So that is a compromise. It's not a compromise I like, unfortunately, because a lot of locomotives with cabs very similar to this, they always have had in the past, be it the Hall or the 3F and the 4F, the Robinson 04, the J11, all those sorts of models. They all, with cabs very similar to this, in a sense. They all have had wire, an actual strip of wire, which looks to scale. This, unfortunately, I'm going to zoom in actually. That's what the zoom button is for. Please focus, camera. Oh boy. Anyway, for whatever reason, this does not work. I don't know why. Bachmann decided that because this model was taking too long, we're just going to cut corners, put plastic molded handrails on the cab side. Unfortunately, the 812, the Caledonia 812 is like this as well. I don't know what I'm going to do about that model, so watch this space on that. But what I have done is on this side, as you can see, I have actually replaced it with, oh my god, with an actual metal handrail, which looks decent. So this was done with 0.45 nickel silver wire, You can also use 0.45 brass wire as well, but I just had nickel silver wire because that's just what I had at the time. I cut off the old handrail very, very, very carefully, and just drilled the smallest drill bit I had. I can't tell you what size, because 1, I'm not good at that sort of thing, and 2, I literally, like I just said, I literally used the smallest size I had available. And then I fed it through. Well, let's back up. First of all, I took the whole thing off. I took the boiler. This is all attached via screws. So I unscrewed that and took the cab off because it literally just slots in. Took the cab off and then did all that, like what I mentioned before. So it's glued in place. It just needs to be painted. Also, I really should have mentioned this. I got this secondhand from Hatton's. Rest in peace. So this was like 80, what was it, like 82, 85 quid. So secondhand. So obviously this handrail is unpainted because it wasn't there. So that's just another thing I did. But that's what I'm going to do to this side. I'm going to repeat the process. I will also put up pictures of what I've done, or the process of it. Now, another compromise is, as you can see, hopefully, with this out of focus. Oh god. You can see enough. The buffers aren't sprung. So unfortunately, that's a compromise from Bachmann as well. I will be replacing these with Allen Gibson sprung buffers, which are kind of a fiddly thing to assemble. They're great, but it's just, you have to like solder the collar, like the back part of the buffer. I'll put up I'll put up a picture. I'll put up a explanation, all that annotation, all that, describing all that in detail. So that's one of the things I really wanted to do with this model, and I was very disappointed that this thing didn't have sprung buffers. I know a lot of people say it's a pointless feature, but then again, so is firebox flickers and, I don't know, opening smoke box doors, in my opinion. I think those are really pointless features, and also I don't know, rotating fans on diesels, but hey, that's just me. That's what I think are pointless features. Sprung buffers to me are of the utmost importance because I use proper couplings, which brings me on to another thing, the buffer beam. I've yet to fit the detail. I'll do that after I've fitted the sprung buffers. So the coupling on the replica is one of the standard Southern, I want to say they're like 3-shackle, I think that's what it's called, a 3-shackle screw link coupling, where it's, instead of the traditional screw link coupling, where it's just 2 loops, I guess, that for lack of a better term, there's 3 of them. And I think one of them is like 1 normal size, which goes into the actual coupling hook itself. And 2, the second one is like a slightly smaller one. And then there's the third, which is like a normal size one. I'll put up examples. But I do have an etched like kit version of that thing ready to go. So I will be putting that on this locomotive. The tender, for whatever reason, has the normal style of screw link, so that's just another added thing for me to do. The bogie, it's okay in detail. It's pretty good. Again, I do apologize for this unorthodox, very unprofessional, but then again, that is me. Anyway, the bogie is okay in detail. The wheels I'm going to replace with Allen Gibson wheels because I don't like those centers. So there's that. I've also cut out the NEM pocket, as you can see, because again, I use actual couplings, not god-awful tension locks. So I have no need for the front coupling. The printed plate, that's you get an edge plate in the detail bag, but I'm going to be I'll put that on after I've done everything else once I'm happy with the model. So that's that. Right, so the final thing, or modification, I should say, is the connecting rods. So on this side, I've already done it. And then, as of course, the other side is as standard, as you can see. So for whatever reason, why am I doing the connecting rods? Well, for whatever ungodly reason, as you can see, Bachmann decided to put a kink in one of the connecting rods. This rod where the crosshead is right here. I don't know why. I don't know what purpose it was, but it, like, unless it was to clear this crank pin here, which it doesn't need. It doesn't need clearance. It's long enough. As you can see on this side, there doesn't need to be a kink in the connecting rod. So, like, the C1 is like this as well. On the C1, I understand why they did it, because this thing is a very... Look, I mean, well, look at the wheelbase. And that was also one of the reasons why this thing took so long, was because Bachmann were struggling getting the wheelbase correct. Anyway, the connecting rod on this one, on this side, has already been straightened out. It's a very, very simple thing to do. All you gotta do is get a pin vise, if you have one. Pin vise, right? Yeah. The holder thing, I forget what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's not that. I think a pin vise is another name for a drill bit. Anyway, I'm getting my stuff mixed up. You can tell this is very professional. Anyway, all you got to do is put it in like a vise. Unscrew the crank pin. Actually, do that first. Most importantly, unscrew the crank pin here. This whole assembly comes out. Very simple, very easy. Put it in a vise. That's what I meant to say, a vise. Put it in a vise, and then just straighten it out with either your hands very, very carefully, or with a set of pliers. Like, again, like I said, I got it on this side. Very easy, simple fix. And as you can see, it, actually, I'll post up videos, once I've done that, of, you know, the process. It clears the crank pin here. So there's really no need for a kink in the connecting rod. So that's the locomotive. As far as I know, that's oh, also I gotta paint the inside motion somehow, some way. So yeah, as far as I know, that's all I gotta do to the locomotive. So that's that done. Now for the tender. Now for the tender. So, let's not drop it. So, for the tender, one of the things I actually want to do really badly is to fix these coal loads and these coal rails in place, because they keep coming out. The coal load itself is removable, as such, and as you can see, the coal rails keep coming out. So I'm gonna glue those in place after this video. But yeah, and the tender is actually like absurdly light without the coal load, because it is a die-cast weight. But this makes everything so much easier, actually, because my back is killing me. So I'm gonna fix those in place. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put a real coal load in it or not. I'm very undecided. So yeah, that's that. As you can see, just like the locomotive, beautiful decoration, beautiful lining, beautiful application of the emblem. So that's that. Just like the locomotive, I'm gonna fit sprung buffers to the rear of the tender. Also, the rear of the tender, I'm going to add separately fitted lamp irons, because again, an unfortunate compromise from Bachmann. As you can see, that does not look good at all compared to the separately fitted ones at the bottom. yeah. And then lastly, I previously thought about this because you do get 2 sets of doors in the detail pack. You get an open set and a closed set. I don't know why, but you do. So one of my earlier ambitions was to actually make the doors posable. Whether or not I go ahead with that will remains to be seen. So watch this space on that because I don't think it's possible, but I'll probably find a way. So that's that. Now, one thing that the replica has that the original H2s doesn't have, I don't know if you can see it, but as you can see, one thing that the London Brighton tenders had of this type that a lot of more conventional tenders didn't have were steps. So if we go to the rear of the tender, there are no steps. So how in the hell did the crews put water in this thing? So what they did was they actually like walked across the coal load on top of this and opened up the filler cap. Now obviously modern health and safety won't allow that. So the replica has a big fat ladder at the back. I wasn't keen on it at first, but then I warmed up to it eventually. So there's that. End of story. It is what it is. I understand why it's there now. Whether or not I'll put it on this on the model, again, remains to be seen because I actually, yeah, I don't know. I like it without it, and at the moment I can't find any double gauge ladders that are, you know, like etched ladders, of course, but again, remains to be seen. As you can see, tender pickups as well. They're not great tender pickups. They're the annoying wiper type, but yeah. And yeah, that's about it. So that's the plan for this model. So in this video, I will be doing the coupling rods, the bogey wheels, and possibly the buffers. And then part 2 will probably be the tender, lamp irons, and the handrail at the back. So yeah. Alright, so here we are on my workbench / kitchen table. As you can see, we've got the locomotive here. So we're going to make a start. First thing we're going to do is start with the connecting rods. So I will move everything down, or depending on how I go about this, I'll either move the camera down and film it all one-handed, obviously, or I'll just fast forward in time and we'll go from there. So yeah. Alright, so I've got the locomotive here. Now what we need to do is remove this crank pin. So you'll need one of these little fancy schmancy nut spinner things. I know Bachmann sold their own. Personally, don't do it. So we just need to turn it as such to remove the crank pin, because it's essentially a screw. But it's not like, ooh god, it's not like your conventional screws that Bachmann usually use on the locomotives. And as you can see, it's a very tiny thing. Don't lose it. So put it somewhere like where you'll keep track of it. So now that we've got the crank pin unscrewed, we can just take this rod here and out it comes. As you can see, it's very easy. Shouldn't be able to mess that up. So we'll move that to one side and we'll take a look at the connecting rod here. So as I've stated, it's got some annoying kink in the rod. I don't know why, don't know what the purpose of that is, but it's not prototypical, and it looks bad in my opinion. It looks comedically bad, and it was like the first thing that caught my eye was this kink in the rod. So I'll take it over to my vise, and we'll remedy this error. So let's go. Alrighty, so I know I said I'd film the whole straightening the rod thing, but here's the thing. I kind of messed up, so here's how this is gonna go. I'm not gonna tell you what happened, and you will not ask me what happened. Okay? Okay. So, with that being said, here is our straightened rod. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. It's about as straight as I could possibly get it. If I just move the locomotive out of the way, that is about as straight as I can get it to be. So there kind of still is a little bit of a kink, you can kind of tell where it is if you can vaguely make it out. It is there, but from like the side on, you can barely tell. So, with that being said, how did I go about straightening the rod? Well, what I did was some flat pliers, held it in the pliers as such, not particularly like that, but where it bent essentially. And then with my finger, just very lightly, light enough to where, as in, you don't want to bend it too much, because, just put enough pressure on it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm doing a very poor job at explaining this, but like I said, this whole thing is a disaster of a video that I thought up last minute. Anyway, now comes the very fun part of putting it back onto the locomotive. So with this end up, we shall slide it in, make sure the crosshead, there we go. And hopefully like that. There we go. Now we get our nut, if I can find it. I think I lost it. I will be right back, actually. Tiny nut here. Nut that is the crank pin. So what I do is put it in like that. I normally would start it off with my hand, but for the sake of this, we're just gonna not waste time. And just like that. It's not tightened. There we go. There we go. So just like that, it is tightened. And as you can see, from the side, you can't really tell that there was a kink there. Well, actually you can, because of the reflection. But it is straight, which is how it should be, prototypically. And if I turn it upside down, you can see there is just enough clearance. But hopefully there won't be enough to where it like catches on the rod. But it's straight and it's prototypical, which is how it should be, as I've stated. So with that being said, that part is done and dusted. So now let's move on to the other modification that I had planned for this video. Right, so next thing we're going to do is tackle the bogey. Now, the bogey wheels I don't particularly like. As you can see, the centers are not really the best. If I use the zoom button, there we go. As you can see, the wheel centers aren't the greatest. Typical of Bachmann wheels, they usually don't look that good. So what I have done, and a lot of other people, a lot of other modelers do this as well, is they usually replace the wheels with those from either Markets or Allen Gibson. Now as you can see, I've already done it with one of the other wheels. So these ones are the Allen Gibson wheels, and as you can see, the centers look much better than the Bachmann ones. So I've already taken, as you can see, I've taken it apart from the locomotive. So the wheels in question are these. Now you need these specific type of wheels. Well, diameter, 3 foot 6 inch 10 spoke. Here's the reference number if you're interested. And they come in OO, EM, or S4. So obviously in the packet you get your 2 wheels. You get 1 per axle, so you don't get like a pack of 4 or a pack of 2 depending on your locomotive. You actually have to buy these individually, which can be a little frustrating at times. But anyway, so you get your 2 wheels. As you can see, they're not attached to the axle. So if I just check it up, maybe. We'll be back. And we're back. So as you can see, you get actually 3 different types of axles. You get one for OO, which is the smaller one right here. I'll probably put up an arrow. And then the one on this over here is the EM axle. You also get a pinpoint axle. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Because these, they could probably double as tender wheels as well, because some tender wheels might have the same diameter as bogey wheels. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how to assemble these. It's very easy. It's very simple, very easy. So let's go. Right, so I've lowered the camera down. As I discussed, these things, are fairly easy to assemble. I have done this in the past with quite a number of my other Bachmann locomotives. So let me just, there we go. So let's get these facing up. I do apologize if you can't see. I'm doing this on the whim, and I know I said I wouldn't do that ever again, but last minute. So 2 different types of axles. It's actually very important to know which one we're using. We're not using that one, definitely. So you get 2 axles. Let me use a toothpick. You get 2 axles. This tiny one, well, not tiny, but shorter one here, this is the one we need. This one over here, we don't need that. That is for EM modelers. This is the one we need, however. So now that we've got the axle that we will be using, we'll move this wheel. And assembly is fairly, I've talked about it, it's fairly easy. So all you gotta do is fit it into the hole here. And it is literally just a push fit. So as you can see, it's there now. Now it's not in all the way, so you can push it just a little bit more. There we go. And see the end has come through. Now it's come through a little bit too much, so I probably will go back after I film this and move it up or back a little bit. So that's that axle. You can also, I've done this also in the past, so if you're not too keen on pressing down, you can also press down like on your workbench or table or literally any hard piece of wood. So what we want to do is make sure get the other wheel, make sure the spokes are lined up. I do apologize for my giant fingers. And then we want to repeat. Hopefully. Alright. So it's in on this side. Unfortunately, it's been pressed through. So I will remedy that. So, BRB. And we're back. There we have it. I've fixed this other end here. So actually I'll push that down just a little bit. Too much. There we go. That's a little better. It's slightly more flush. Right. So if we look through the wheels, you can see that they are all in line. And it's very important that you get all the spokes in line, because otherwise it wouldn't look right. So that's how you make the wheel. Next, you take the old wheel off the bogie. Again, fairly simple. All you got to do is press up from underneath, and there you go. And all we got to do is slot the new wheel in, and it should just click like that. I don't know if you could hear it, but that's all it should take. And there we go. We have our new wheels on the bogie. So what you can do now, if you want, is you can run a black permanent marker, like a Sharpie or literally any other brand of permanent marker, around the rims here and darken them so that they're not shiny nickel silver like this. So that's how you make... Well, that's how you assemble Allen Gibson wheels, and that's how you replace all the wheels on the bogie. So this method can also be used on other Bachmann locomotives, either with a bogie like this or with a pony truck. It is, like I said, it's a very easy thing to do. It can be a little frustrating at times if, as you already saw, sometimes things don't work out. But yeah, that's how you replace the wheels. So with the bogie and the coupling rod modified, the next modification I want to do is on the buffers. Now, like I said in the pre-ramble, because that's basically what it was, there at the start of the video, I mentioned that one of my biggest pet peeves with this model is the fact that it doesn't come with sprung buffers, and that a lot of people find, oh, why bother? They're pointless features. But like I said in that, I use actual couplings, so it's kind of a big deal for me. So yeah, the buffers aren't sprung, unfortunately. However, interestingly, if you look underneath, there are little grooves in the chassis to allow for sprung buffers. So Bachmann must have considered it at some point during the development of the model, but like I said, compromise, unfortunately. So the buffers I will be putting in are, once again, from Allen Gibson. They are the round base parallel. Here's the reference number. So you can also use Market's buffers as well, but I mean, it's Market's. They're usually out of everything, especially from where I get these things from. Market's is like always out of stock. So these are the next best option. So we'll be using these ones. These are a little bit more difficult to assemble, and it kind of does require some soldering. So before we get into that though, we got to get rid of the old buffers. So to remove the old non-sprung buffers, get some pliers. Preferably these bent nose ones. This is just how I do it. Grip it here, hold the model, obviously, and then just rock back and forth. Maybe. Ah. Apparently the buffer head just comes out. Interesting. So that means I'm gonna have to get the side cutters. Oh boy. So that's how you remove the buffers, or any buffer in general. Get some pliers, and then just rock back and forth. So I'll be right back with the side cutters. Right, I'm back with the necessary tools. Notice how very unprofessional this whole thing is, but like I said, unprofessionality is a common trend on this channel, so. Bear with me. Ooh. So, that was a lot. I do apologize. That was mostly off screen. But there we go. Buffers are removed. They pinged off into the nether. So what I'll do now is I will ream these holes out. Actually, I'll probably drill them out, and we'll go on from there. Alrighty, so now that the buffers are glued in, we can move on to the other part of the locomotive that I wanted to modify. Before we do that, going to the buffers real quick, as you can see by this one, they're not fully pressed in all the way, and that is simply because I'm going to repaint the buffer beam, and I think that's kind of the obvious thing here, and it'll be a lot easier with the actual buffer heads not present. So with the Allen Gibson buffers, you have to, like, if I demonstrate here, because this one lost its spring, this one's gone. Thankfully I have spares, but if I demonstrate, all you got to do is either glue or solder the actual housing, which is this bit here, glue that on, or solder it if you're working on like a brass kit, glue or solder that on, and then fully press this in with the spring, and then underneath you bend up the actual wire bit. If I just take it out here, you bend up this actual wire bit here, whatever's left, and then with the spring, I'd recommend putting that on, obviously. Put the very microscopic spring on this bit of wire here, put that on, then press the buffer head fully in, and then bend this whatever's left up and snap that off with the side cutters or whatever you plan on using. So that's how you deal with Allen Gibson buffers. Now Markets ones are very similar, except they have a, like, the buffer head has a threaded section at the end, and you have to thread a nut, which is very, very tiny and just as bad as losing one of these springs. Speaking of, I see it now. It's literally hiding under the tender. So scratch that idea. So I'm gonna reunite it with this buffer head. I see the spring. Thank God. I thought it was on the floor. Crisis averted. So as you can see, I've also put in the what will soon be the 3-shackle screw link coupling. This is just the hook. It's not glued in yet. Obviously, it's just I'm doing a dry fit, which I recommend doing with pretty much anything you do in model railways. Just like dry fit stuff. Just don't glue something on and then realize it's in the wrong spot or it's wonky. Always dry fit before you permanently fix something. That's just a little bit of advice there. So as you can see, we have the boiler off over there. I'm going to paint the interior at on my own time after we deal with what we will be tackling next. So that's that, and that will be the cab and the handrail back here in particular. Alrighty, so before we tackle the cab, if you want to take the boiler off, it's a very simple thing. Just there are two screws. There's one directly under the smoke box, which is this one, and there's one all the way under here in the cab. Basically underneath, as you can see here on the boiler mounting. It's right there. That's where that screw goes. And they're obviously facing upside down on the on the running board. The reason why I have them up like this is because, well, storage, so I know where the screws go, so I don't be wondering what screw goes where. So that's how you take the boiler off. And then to separate the cab from the boiler, all you got to do is literally just pull them apart and be careful of the handrails and the pipe, some of the pipework here. That's just how you do it with all Bachmann models. And personally, I like it that way. I don't think Hornby do anything very similar. I think all Hornby stuff is like glued in, and I personally don't like it. And especially for repainting, the way Bachmann does it makes it a lot easier. So there's that. Anyway, so to replace the very chunky plastic handrail on the cab, as you can see, we have the nickel silver one, which is a lot finer compared to the rather thick chunky plastic one, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is snap off here, here, and then down here and here with these side cutters. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'm going to file down whatever is left over, and I will also drill out the holes here and here using my tiniest drill bit. Don't ask me what size it is, because I do not know. So I will do that off camera, and I will be back once I've done that. Alright, so with the loco now detailed to the point where I can leave it alone, we can now move on to the tender. So for the tender, we will be modifying the buffers, of course. Well, we'll look at modifying them, because I'm not sure how much space is available. If you look under here, the buffer heads will be, well, not the heads, but the little metal wire bits will be obscured by the frames of the tender here. So we'll look into that, and we'll also be modifying these molded lamp irons at the rear. We'll be replacing those with proper etched ones. Another thing I said I was going to look into adding was the doors, because you get two. I thought about modeling the doors to be posable. Upon further investigation and a lot of umming and ahhing, I decided probably it's best not to do that, and we'll just leave the doors off. I will probably use one of the doors, have one open and closed. If not that, then I'll probably just, fit them but not glue them in, so I can have them open or closed instead of, gluing them in and then regretting the decision later on. The guard irons here on the coal space for the tender, I've glued those in with some plastic cement because they kept popping out. They still will pop out occasionally, but I will also look into doing a real coal load, but that'll probably be at a much, much later date, but we won't get to that in this video. So, yeah, let's get into modifying the tender. And here is the finished product, or relatively close to being finished, as I'm gonna be honest. So, this section of the video I'm going to dub probably post-game discussion or something cringe like that. So basically the whole point of this part of the video will be me discussing what I have done to this model or future models in the series, and just basically talking you through the process, what has been done, what still needs to be done. As I'd stated previously, this isn't finished. It's more of like 90%, if I'm going to give an estimate. It's like 90% finished, but it's close enough to where I can probably show it. And yeah, so we'll start at the front here. So what's been done is we've added the detail bag. We've replaced the firm steel buffers with sprung ones. The screw-link coupling has been replaced with a southern style screw-link coupling, because on the replica, for whatever reason, the replica has a southern style screw-link coupling and the tender has the normal style screw-link coupling. But the original Beachy head also had a normal style screw-link coupling, so I'm not entirely sure why the Bluebell project, Atlantic project, did that. But the screw-link coupling is a RT Models product, and unfortunately at the time of recording this section of the video, RT Models don't ship internationally anymore, which is annoying, but it is what it is. As for the sprung buffers, these are from Allen Gibson. You can use markets, however, markets, apparently the owner of markets had passed, so that's why there's been a whole markets shortage lately. So yeah, it's, unfortunate, but you can use alternatives. The buffer beam has been repainted as a result as well, so looks pretty good in my opinion. Still need to do some touching up. Moving towards the side, we replaced the bogey wheels with those, once again, from Allen Gibson. Like I said, you can use markets, but markets stuff is currently on a shortage, and it's going to take quite some effort to find some market stuff. But if you're lucky to find some, then yeah, you can use them if you're not a fan of using Allen Gibson buffers and wheels. Speaking of wheels, I painted the centers of the drivers a silver, because the centers on the real things are silver as well. I think that's where the axle comes out. Above the wheels, I put the nameplate on. This is from the detail bag. This is an etched piece, and that was just put in with some matte varnish. I used to use super glue, but in this case I'm using matte varnish just to be on the safe side. Also, I painted the center middle bit of that connecting rod brass color. The wheels and the connecting rod bit were also done with a Sharpie. You don't need to use paint. You can if you want, but I mean, it's up to you really. Sticking with the wheels, we also, or I need to stop saying we, I also fixed the connecting rod, because for whatever ungodly reason, Bachmann decided this thing needed a kink in the connecting rod. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of it was, but since straightening it out, it actually does not affect performance at all. So, not sure why it's there, but it's there, and it's an unnecessary feature, so it's since been corrected. Moving towards the cab, we replaced the molded, thick, chunky handrails with some from nickel silver wire. This is 0.45 nickel silver wire. This was done by drilling out the old handrail was cut, should I say. And then the holes were drilled out very carefully. I need to state you need to do that very carefully. The holes are drilled out with 0.5 drill bit. Now looking back on this, I probably should have used 0.5 wire, but you can use 0.45. So yeah. And the doors here, the doors actually aren't glued in, because I had a rather stupid idea of trying to get the doors to move and be hingeable, but realistically that's not possible, so it was a really stupid idea, and I couldn't do that, obviously. Moving towards the rear, we replaced the lamp irons, the molded lamp irons, with those from Silvertay models. And you can get those on eBay. I could stress you can use mainly trains and mailing trades etch, but those things are like really big and chunky, and I don't entirely trust them. So if I just turn to the side here, they were molded in. I still need to do some touching up. I need to fix those scratches, paint those, and whatnot. Just like the front of the locomotive, I've also added sprung buffers and a screw link coupling. This is the normal style screw link coupling. This is the one that's in the detail bag. And then the lamp iron on top of the tender. Now, one thing you will have noticed, there's something missing, and it's something that the prototype, the replica has this, and it's the ladder. Now, for obvious reasons, the real replica has a ladder at the rear of the tender, because, well, if you know anything about London Brighton tenders, how does the crew get up there? So it makes it rather difficult, and for health and safety reasons, the replica has a ladder. Now, I can't find an etched ladder or something close to it that I could use, so I've decided to omit it. But if I do end up finding one, or if someone does make an etched for whatever reason, I will get it. So moving towards the top, I've replaced the coal load. I've added real coal. Now, if you decide to do this, you will lose weight, as rather important weight in the tender, but you can add it to the inside if you want, or if you're doing DCC, the speaker will probably add a little bit more weight as well. The whistle was repainted, and the associating cord there, that was repainted gold and copper. Now, realistically, this will probably be covered in soot by the time I get this video out, but at the moment of filming, it's gold and copper, so I quite like it. Etched plate, once again, much like the other side, fixed connecting rod, Allen Gibson wheels, and finally I repainted the interior to represent the inside motion. So that concludes this part of the video. What still needs to be done is I still need to varnish it. I will lightly weather it. I will fix those little scratches at the rear of the tender. But overall, I'm quite happy with it. You can do this to your own H2 or H1. I have yet to try this with a C1, because the C1 has, honestly, similar design choices, to say the least. But a word of advice, if you do end up doing this to your H1 or H2 and you don't have a black one like this, if you have one that's in umber or in olive green, I think maybe malachite, I'm not sure if the malachite one has painted wheels. I'm pretty sure the wheels on that are black, but if you have like an umber one or a southern olive green one and you decide to replace the bogey wheels, you will have to paint the wheels yourself. And again, if you also decide to add sprung buffers, you are going to have to repaint the buffer beam and probably reapply some decals or decals or transfers. So just a little bit of word of warning there if you decide to do it to your own H1 or H2. I have yet to do this to a C1. I still need to get a C1 to do this too. But yeah, the connecting rod bit, it's really easy. The fairly simple detailing project here. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. Not like my Black 5 that I've currently got it on the workbench. That's not getting a video because I don't want to do a video on that, I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, I quite like it. Still need to varnish it, lightly weather it, fix scratches, fill in some scratches and whatnot. But a fairly simple detailing project that I hope has provided inspiration for you to do to your own model. And before I go, little useless fact. This section of the video that I'm currently filming is, at the moment, it is July 2025, and the previous section of this video, of the video you have seen, that was filmed way back in November 2024. So this thing has been done for quite a while. I just haven't gotten around to doing a video because, you know, life gets in the way and whatnot. But anyways, quite happy with this thing. Still need to work on it. It's like 90% done, as I've stated. Really happy with it. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and all that jazz, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.